All right, we've talked theory, and now it's time to get practical. So far, we've dug into why players might be ignoring your story hooks. But in this explainer, we're going to flip that around and focus on the how you can design scenes they literally can't resist.
Look, we've all been there, right? We've asked ourselves this exact question. You spent weeks, maybe months, crafting this incredible, epic story, and now you just need your players to follow the script. But what if I told you that question is exactly where things start to go wrong?
Yeah, that's right. Because that whole mindset, it kind of turns your players into problems you have to manage, not collaborators you're building a world with. It's a recipe for frustration for everyone at the table. So let's just throw that question out the window. This. This is the question that changes everything. It's not about forcing anyone's hand. It's about creating these irresistible moments and then, trusting your players to dive right in. And today, that's exactly what we're going to break down.
Okay, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. This one shift in how you think will absolutely revolutionize your game. Stop designing plots and start creating situations. I know it sounds like a small difference, but trust me, the impact is massive.
Here's the heart of it, really. A plot is passive. It's a script, a pre-planned series of events that are supposed to happen in a specific order. But a situation is active. It's a problem, a choice, a dilemma that you drop right into the player's laps, and it just demands a response.
Think of it like this. A plot is a railroad track. It tells players where they should go. A situation, though, drops them at a crossroads. It gives them an immediate problem, a tense opportunity, or a moral quandary they can actually do something about right now.
And this is exactly why so many plot hooks just fall flat. Things like, there's trouble up in the north, or you hear rumors of danger. They're abstract. They aren't immediate problems. To a player, that feels less like a thrilling adventure and a lot more like a homework assignment.
So how do we do it? How do we actually build these compelling situations, systematically? Well, I've got 5 really powerful tools for your DM toolkit that are going to lay the foundation for a way more dynamic and engaging game.
So here's the plan. We're going to dive into designing with pressure, not direction. We'll talk about creating multiple ways into every scene. We're going to make those character backgrounds matter. We'll get into rewarding effort and finally, build a world that actually reacts to what your players do.
Okay, tool number 1, pressure, not directions. The bad hook here, you hear villagers are missing, is just dry information. But the good hook? That's an immediate emotional scene. A funeral procession is passing you by. A grieving priest locks eyes with you. It doesn't tell you what to do, but it absolutely demands some kind of reaction. And this pressure, it comes in a few key flavors. You've got time pressure, like a ritual that finishes at midnight. You've got social pressure, like a noble demanding an answer in front of their whole court. There's moral pressure, where you have to choose which of 2 villages to save. And of course, resource pressure, like using their very last healing potion. Any of these gets things moving, no railroading required.
All right, tool number 2 is the rule of 3. And I mean this. I never, ever design a scene with only one correct way in. Every good situation, every mystery, every conflict, it needs at least 3 different ways for your players to grab onto it.
So let's take a missing fisherman mystery. Entry point 1 could be a grieving spouse, appealing to the party's empathy. Or maybe there's a rival merchant who seems to be profiting from it all, sparking their suspicion. Or maybe they just find these strange, magically torn nets washing ashore, firing up their curiosity. The players get to choose the lens, and that choice shapes the whole story.
Tool 3 is my absolute favorite, because this is where those character sheets just come alive. We're going to use those backgrounds not just as flavor text, but as a filter that literally changes what each player sees in a scene.
So the scene itself stays exactly the same, but the information each character gets is totally unique. The sailor in the group is the only one who recognizes the strange, otherworldly knots on a rope. The former city guard, they immediately notice the local watch is acting shifty, avoiding a certain part of town. The noble understands all the unspoken power plays happening at the dinner table. This makes your players feel smart, it makes them feel seen, and it makes them lean forward, totally invested.
Now, tool 4 is all about building trust. And honestly, nothing kills player motivation faster than feeling like they're being punished for investigating the wrong clue. So my rule is simple. If they put in real effort, they get a real reward. We're rewarding the act of investigating, not just getting the right answer.
So even if they go chasing a red herring, make it lead somewhere interesting. Maybe they don't find the main villain, but they uncover a critical piece of lore. Or they gain an unexpected new ally. Or they discover a whole different threat that their actions have now set into motion. This teaches them that taking action is always rewarded, and hesitation is the only real enemy.
And that leads us to our final and maybe the most important tool of all. If you want players to truly, deeply care about your world, their choices have to have real, lasting consequences. Every action, every little interaction needs to send ripples out into your game world.
Remember that shopkeeper they were kind to? Bring her back 3 sessions later with the vital piece of information. That goblin patrol they decided to just ignore? Well, it's now a full-blown raiding party threatening the town. The curse they lifted from the forest, let them see how the town is now thriving because of what they did. This proves to them that the world is listening. It stops being your story and it becomes our story.
You see, when you start using all these tools together, you're not just making a few better scenes here and there. You're building something much, much bigger. You're building a world that feels alive, dynamic, and genuinely responsive to the people at the very center of it all. If you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this. Players are not random. They are responding directly to your design. When players go off the rails, it's usually because they're looking for a more interesting track to follow. If you design compelling situations, you will get compelling engagement. It's that simple. So stop trying to make players follow your path. Instead, build a world that responds to theirs. Because the story you create together will always, always be more epic, more surprising, and more meaningful than any story you could have ever written all by yourself.